What is up, guys? We're back with another video, and today we're checking out this case right here, which is the brand new Phanteks Eclipse G500A. So let's go ahead and take a look. As far as where the G500A sits in the Eclipse product stack, it's going to fit between the P400A and the P600S, and it's going to be considered a high performance mid-tower. When it comes to our accessories, we actually get quite a lot in the accessories box. We of course have all of our mounting hardware, and it's really nice that it comes in this nice little storage box. Just makes it easier to find all of your screws and everything like that. And you just don't have to like dig through a bag, when you're doing your installation, which is really nice. We get two of these metal hard drive cages. These cages will support a single 2.5 inch or 3.5 inch hard drive here, and again, they can be mounted different places in the case, which we will show you. There's this little plastic piece that is for vertical GPU mounting, and then there is this metal piece which will help your GPU from sagging, and there are some cable ties in this bag as well. So as you can see, we received the white version of the case. This case is also going to come in black as well. And we have the RGB version of the case, which does come with 3 RGB fans on the front of the case, as well as an RGB section here and an RGB section on the front of the case. There's also going to be a performance version of the case, and the performance version will come with 4 black 140 millimeter cooling fans. And then there is just a fanless version of the case, which is great if you're, trying to plan everything out. Just no fans at all, just the case itself. The case is a mid-tower, and I'll go ahead and put the official dimensions, sort of like right here, like I always do. The front of the case has an all mesh design, which is really good for high airflow. Now, the mesh itself is Phanteks' own ultrafine high performance mesh. This mesh is great for high airflow and dust filtration, so you don't actually need a filter here. Now, at the top, we do have a power button and an RGB strip. The front bezel of the case can easily be removed by just pulling on it from the bottom. With it removed, we find our 3 included 140 millimeter A RGB fans. These fans will sit on 2 removable brackets. Now, I really like it that Phanteks has a dual bracket design with 1 bracket on one side and 1 bracket on the other, not a single bracket design. A lot of other cases have that single bracket design, but here the 2 brackets make it so you have less obstruction of airflow, which of course is great for getting, more air inside the case. Now, for those wondering about water cooling support on the front of the case, you can fit radiators up to 420 millimeters. Moving up to the top of the case, along the right side, you'll find your buttons and connections. There's a mode button, color button, USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C port, 2 USB 3.0 Type-A ports, and a combination audio jack. The rest of the top of the case is ventilated, and it's actually using the same type of mesh that we saw on the front of the case. Now, you can easily go ahead and pull on it from the back and remove the mesh section. With the mesh removed, we find a cooling section that supports 3 120 or 140 millimeter fans, as well as radiators up to 360 millimeters. You can see we actually have our radiator installed here. Unfortunately, this cooling section is built into the frame of the case, so you can't remove it to make it easier to install your fans or radiators. Now, Phanteks has designed this section for the least overlap possible, which is going to make for the highest airflow possible. The main side panel of the case is a tempered glass panel, and this is going to show off basically everything that's in your system. If we flip over to the other side, we just have a plain white steel panel. Both of these panels actually have a hinge design, and there's a little groove in the front part of the case that allows you to easily open the panels up. Now, because these panels are on a hinge design, once you have them open, you can just pull up on them to fully remove the panels. Finally, we come to the rear of the case, and we have a pretty basic design. So we have a cooling mount that supports either a 120 or 140 millimeter fan. We installed a 140 there. You have your motherboard mount, expansion slots 3 vertical slots, and then your power supply mounts at the bottom. There is a small filter that pulls out from the back of the case for your power supply. And then when it comes to your vertical expansion slots, you do get 3 slots, but there's not much room past that 3rd slot. So if you are installing a larger graphics card that is slotted for 3 slots, but might extend past that, you're gonna wanna make sure that it's gonna fit in this case. As we remove the main side panel of the case, we find something interesting. There's actually a rubber lining around the glass side panel. This is actually to close any gaps between the panel and the actual frame of the case. Looking inside the case, we have a pretty standard 2-compartment design that is, of course, sectioned off by our power supply cover. Now, as far as motherboard support, this case will support mini ITX, micro ATX, ATX, and eATX motherboards. You're also going to find plenty of cable routing holes all around the motherboard tray. Towards the front of the case, you're going to find 4 of Phanteks sliding covers. Now, these sliding covers are pretty cool because when you're doing your installation, you can slide them forward to, open up all of your cable routing holes. And then when you're done, you can slide them back to keep everything nice and neat and make those holes as small as possible. Also, they're all removable, so you can completely remove all of these covers from the case. And once you remove them, they reveal all of the mounting points for those included hard drive cages that we talked about. So those cages can be installed in the front part of the case here. You simply just slot them in and they lock into place. It's very easy. And there's actually 6 of those mounting points for hard drives. Even though there's only 2 cages, you can actually buy extra cages if you wanted to. If you wanted to, then, go ahead and install them here. Also at the front of the case, you will find your 3 included fans, and there is a very large cutout in the power supply cover. So you're not gonna have any issues if you wanted to do maybe like a push-pull system when it came to water cooling. On the top side of the power supply cover is a little plastic piece that actually reveals a cable routing hole. Again, just like the covers towards the front of the case, you slide this open to route your cables and then close it up as much as you can to, of course, just not have a big hole there. And again, if you're not going to use it, you can just have it completely closed. The power supply cover itself is basically a full length cover, and embedded in it is an RGB strip, which I think looks pretty cool. There's also a Phanteks logo and a cutout for your power supply. So if you do have a power supply like we do that has a little display, you will be able to see it here. As we come to the expansion slots, I do have to say that I really like that Phanteks is using silver hardware here. On a lot of white cases, we do see white thumb screws and things like that, but I like the silver. I think it looks really sleek. Now, for those wondering about graphics card support, you have no issues in this case. You can fit the longest graphics cards in this case, no problem at all. Phanteks was nice enough to send us over their Glacier 1 360 MPH liquid cooler. This is a great AIO. Again, it's all white, so it goes perfectly with this case. It has the infinity mirror on the block right there, which just looks awesome. And then we have the Halo fans, and I really like these Halo fans. It's my first time actually using these in a build. And what's really cool is they're just fan grills that have RGB lighting. So the actual fans themselves are white. And then we have the cool Halo, which I think, again, just sets this build off awesome. And what was really nice about this is that we could install this AIO in the case with the motherboard mounted. We didn't have to take the motherboard out or anything like that. And we were able to daisy chain all of the RGB elements of the AIO, including the block and all of the Halo rings, to everything in the case, so everything gets controlled together. As I did mention, we did install an extra 140mm fan at the rear of the case. It is their M25 140, which is the same type of fan that's installed on the front of the case. I believe you can buy these in single pack and dual pack. Phanteks did send us a dual pack, but it really, again, brings everything together. And just like I said, you can daisy chain everything together. So we have one RGB controller controlling all of these fans. Removing the opposite side panel, we have a very clean design. And this is actually made possible by the two cable covers that are on this case. Now, these cable covers are actually doors, which we will get into. But on these doors, you'll find these little white pieces. They actually cover up holes that are made for SSD mounts. So each door supports 3 SSDs each. So you can actually have a total of 6 hard drives mounted back here. These cable covers are made of metal and they actually sit on hinges, so they make them very easy to open up. Now you can't fully remove them from the case, but again, they're easy to open up, and when you do open them up, they reveal all of your cable ties and everything like that. When you open up the bottom cable cover, it does open up the bottom section of the case. And of course, in the bottom section, we're gonna install our power supply. We can also mount the 2 included hard drive cages down here. You can mount them side by side, but you can also mount them on top of each other. And again, you can add more hard drive cages if you want to. Above the bottom cable cover are 3 removable SSD trays. These are made of metal. And again, because they're removable, it just makes it easy to install all of your drives outside of your case and then simply just reinstall them. Towards the front of the case, you're gonna find a small PCB with a bunch of things connected to it. Now, this is not a fan controller. It's basically an ARGB controller that gets connected to the 2 buttons that are on the top of the case. Now, all of the fans that come with this case are daisy chained together, and then there's 1 PWM connection that you connect to your motherboard. And then all of the RGB elements are daisy chained together, and then they of course all feed into that controller. Now, if you don't want to use this controller, there is a 3-pin ARGB connection that you can connect to your motherboard to use your motherboard software to control the RGB lighting. But I really like it that everything is basically pre-wired out of the box. You don't have to figure out all the different RGB connections. So when it comes to RGB lighting on the case, you're gonna be doing all of your controls with the 2 buttons on the top part of the case. You have a mode button, and then you do have a color button. So going through the different modes, we're on the multicolor mode, which I think a lot of you will like right here, but we can switch. And now we're in breathing mode, and you can see the color has changed as well. And then we have a circular mode. And then we have a sort of sparkle mode. And then we have solid. And when you're on any of the different modes, you can change the color. So here we're on yellow, but I'll just cycle through the different colors so you guys can see. And then when you go back to the multicolor mode, there's different multicolor colors that you can change as well. So we're on the kind of rainbow wave here, and I'll go cycle through the ones that are available. When it comes to testing, we test both temperatures and sound levels. So we test CPU and GPU temperatures, as well as noise levels from 2 different sections on the case. Now, this is not the hardware that we use for our testing. I'll go ahead and list all of the hardware that we did use for all of our testing. As we come to the end here, we have a very well-designed high airflow case from Phanteks. And talking about the high airflow, we have their ultra-fine high-performance mesh in the front and the top of the case. This basically makes it so you don't need to have a filter there. adding the filter, the little piece of fabric, it's going to make it so you have less airflow. So not having to have it is of course a good thing. On top of that, the front and top sections of the case, the actual mounts are designed so you have less metal overlap, which again, less things in front of those fans mean we have, better airflow coming in and going out of the case. Talking about cooling support, our version of the case did come with 3 included 140 millimeter fans. You can do 3 120 or 140s up top and a 120 or 140 at the rear here. Also, as far as water cooling support goes, you can do a 420 in the front and a 360 up top. And there is a rather large cutout in the front of the case if you wanted to do something like a push-pull design. Now, as far as what can fit in this case, this is a rather large mid-tower. So you can do motherboards, anywhere from ITX all the way up to extended ATX. You can do a very large graphics cards, full-size power supplies. I believe this case supports up to 11 hard drives out of the box, which is pretty crazy. And again, you can add more hard drives if you wanted to. I like it that we have a very clean design here too. The covers, plus again, everything gets kind of hidden on the other side of the case. Very, very clean design here. And even the opposite side of the case is extremely clean because we have those cable covers. Even though nobody's gonna see it, you still have those there as well. Building in this case is very easy. I really didn't run into any issues. The only issue that you might run into with this case is when it comes to vertically mounting your graphics card. We do get 3 slots here, but there's not a whole lot of room beyond that 3rd slot. So if you were getting something rather large like a RTX 4090, you're gonna wanna make sure it is gonna fit in this case if you are mounting it vertically. Another thing I really liked about this case is all of the RGB elements are all daisy chained together and they're all connected to the controller. So you don't have to worry about it. When you get this case, you don't have to worry about connecting all the RGBs or anything. It's all done for you there as well. And then adding extra things. So we added our AIO in and the 4th fan back here, and we were easily able to, daisy chain everything together. It wasn't all that hard to do really, which I really liked there as well. Now, again, we have the DRGB version of the case, which does come with the 3 ARGB fans. Again, it's going to be available in both black and white, and then we have 2 other versions. Now, this version of the case will be $159.99. We will have a link below where you can go ahead and pick that up. We're also going to have a link below to the full written review on thinkcomputers.org if you want to go ahead and check that out. Now, if you guys have any questions about this case, go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you hit the thumbs up. We'll see you guys in the next video.